Have you ever been so deeply hurt that all you could think about was getting even? Maybe someone lied to you, betrayed your trust, humiliated you in silence while pretending to be your friend. It's human to feel that fire rise inside, the urge to retaliate, to make them feel what they made you feel. But let me offer you something stronger than revenge: perspective. You see, the universe has a way of balancing itself. What you send out eventually finds its way back. And this isn't some mystical fairy tale. It's a principle as old as time, what the Stoics understood, and what modern psychology confirms. Karma doesn't need your help. It doesn't miss. While you're out here struggling to sleep, haunted by injustice, the person who wronged you might look like they're thriving, but appearances lie. Life keeps receipts. And one day, without your effort, without your bitterness, they will come face to face with the consequences of their own actions. This is not about wishing them harm. It's about reclaiming your peace. Because here's the truth: reacting in anger keeps you shackled to the pain, but responding with wisdom, that sets you free. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." In other words, your healing is the real revenge. Your calm is the power they can't touch. So instead of feeding the cycle of hurt, what if you stepped out of it? What if you chose to rise instead of sink? What if your energy went into rebuilding yourself, not destroying someone else? Think about it. Every time you act with emotional intelligence instead of impulse, you break the chain. You take back control. You become the storm that cannot be provoked. That doesn't mean you forget. It means you learn, you observe, and you protect your peace like it's sacred, because it is. Karma will take care of the rest. So no, you don't need to chase justice. You become justice by living well, by choosing growth, by becoming someone they can no longer reach. Let them carry the weight of their own choices. Your job? Heal. Build. Live. Because while revenge is loud and short-lived, growth is silent and permanent. And that, my friend, is how you win. Part 1. Betrayal doesn't mean you were weak. Let's get one thing straight. Just because someone betrayed you doesn't mean you were weak. In fact, it's often the opposite. Your ability to love deeply, to stay loyal when things got hard, to believe in someone even when they couldn't believe in themselves, that didn't make you foolish. That made you strong. That made you real in a world full of people wearing masks. But here's the painful truth that many people don't talk about. Sometimes when you show up as your full, honest self, people leave. Not because you weren't enough, but because you were too much of what they weren't ready to face. Your authenticity shined a light on their emotional emptiness, and instead of rising to meet your energy, they ran from it. They didn't leave because you lacked something. They left because you carried something they didn't know how to hold. You showed vulnerability, and they mistook it for weakness. You offered trust, and they saw it as a chance to manipulate. But that doesn't reflect your value. It reveals their limits. The Stoics taught us that what others do is not in our control, but how we respond is. And that's where your power lives. Ask yourself, do I regret being someone who felt deeply, who stood by their word, who chose honesty even when it hurt? If the answer is no, then you didn't lose. You simply outgrew someone who was never meant to walk the whole journey with you. Let that sink in. Their betrayal was never about your worth. It was about their inability to receive what was real. There's a quote I love that says, "Don't shrink yourself to fit into someone else's comfort zone." And I'll add to that, don't confuse someone's inability to love you properly with a failure on your part. You didn't break because you were fragile. You bent because you were human, and you're still standing, stronger, wiser, and more grounded than ever. So if someone walked away after you gave them the most honest parts of yourself, let them go. That's not your shame to carry. That's their lesson to learn. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, if someone does wrong, the harm lies in their actions, not in your response. You don't need to dim your light to avoid rejection. You need to shine brighter, and trust that those who are meant for you will be drawn to your truth, not repelled by it. Remember, betrayal doesn't make you broken. It reveals where your boundaries should be, and more importantly, it reminds you that your strength isn't in holding on to people. It's in knowing when to release them. You weren't weak. You were just real in a world that often prefers illusions. And real always rises. Part 2. They're not thriving, they're distracting. Have you ever looked at someone who hurt you, only to see them smiling, succeeding, living like nothing ever happened? It stings, doesn't it? After all the pain they caused, how are they the ones who seem to be winning? But here's what you need to understand. Don't confuse movement with progress. Just because someone looks like they've moved on, doesn't mean they're at peace. Sometimes the people who seem the most unbothered on the outside are actually running the hardest from what's inside. They're not thriving. They're distracting themselves from guilt, from emptiness, from the person they became when they betrayed someone who truly cared. They fill their lives with noise so they don't have to hear the silence of their own conscience. They jump into new relationships, chase attention, cling to validation, because facing themselves would mean confronting a truth they're not ready for. And that's where karma comes in. But let me be clear. Karma isn't about some magical punishment falling from the sky. Karma is alignment. It's a law of return. You plant betrayal, you harvest isolation. You plant lies, you harvest distrust. You plant chaos, and in time, you live in it. Karma isn't loud. It doesn't always show up in public, but it always shows up. And the most powerful form of karma, your silence, your peace, your healing. When you stop engaging, when you stop explaining, when you stop trying to prove anything, that's when the real shift begins. You become untouchable. You stop playing their game. And in doing so, you take away the power they thought they had over you. Remember what the Stoics taught. It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgment about them. You can't control what they do, how they act, or how they present themselves to the world. But you can control how you carry yourself. And when you stop watching their path and start walking yours, you win. Your peace becomes your protest. Your growth becomes your revenge. And your silence becomes the echo that follows them everywhere they go. So if you're wondering whether they're winning without you, ask a deeper question. Are they really free? Or just afraid of standing still long enough to face the truth? Because while you're healing, learning, and evolving, they're hiding behind distractions. And that, my friend, is a life sentence far worse than anything you could have delivered. So, let them post. Let them pretend. Let them run. You don't need to chase closure. You are the closure. When you choose peace over pain, focus over revenge, and healing over history, their karma is already unfolding. Your job is to keep rising. Part 3. True healing begins with letting go. Let's be honest, letting go of betrayal is one of the hardest things you'll ever do. Not because you want to hold on to the pain, but because a part of you still wants answers. Still wants justice. Still wants to understand why someone you trusted could cut so deep. But here's the truth that will set you free. Forgiveness isn't about them. It's about you. It's not about pretending it didn't happen. It's not about saying it was okay. It's about refusing to let the wound control your future. When you hold on to anger, you chain yourself to the past. And the longer you grip that chain, the more it pulls you away from peace, from growth, from everything you're meant to become. Forgiveness is not weakness. It's wisdom. It's saying, I value my peace more than I value my pain. The moment you release what they did to you is the moment you rise. You rise with new boundaries, with stronger standards, with a deeper understanding of who belongs in your space and who doesn't. Because here's something powerful to remember. Their exit was not your loss. It was your liberation. You didn't lose someone who truly loved you. You lost the illusion of who they pretended to be, and that illusion was never meant to stay. The Stoics taught us that freedom begins when we stop trying to control what we can't. You can't change what happened. You can't rewrite their choices. But you can choose how the story ends for you. You can walk forward, not bitter, but better. You can take the lessons, not the scars. You can look in the mirror and say, I kept my heart soft. I kept my soul intact. I didn't let the world turn me into someone I'm not. And that is true strength. So, if you're still carrying betrayal, still replaying that conversation, still wondering what you could have done differently, take a deep breath and let it go. Not because they deserve your forgiveness, but because you deserve your freedom. Let go. Not to forget what happened, but to stop letting it define you. Let go. Not because you're weak, but because you're ready to rise without the weight. The real victory isn't proving them wrong. It's becoming someone they can no longer reach. So rise. Rise in silence. Rise in peace. Rise in power. Because healing doesn't start when you get revenge. Healing starts when you no longer need it. Part 4. Not everything that shines is real. You've probably seen it before. The same person who broke you posts a photo on vacation, smiling, glowing, surrounded by people, champagne in hand. They look like they're thriving. They look like they've won. But I want to remind you of something that the Stoics knew thousands of years ago, and that we too often forget today. Not everything that shines is real. Social media is a stage. It shows you the highlight reel, not the real-life battle behind the curtain. And sometimes, the brightest smiles are worn by the most haunted souls. You can't measure someone's peace by how well they perform in front of a camera. You measure it by how still they are when no one's watching, by how they sleep at night, by how they face themselves when the world goes silent. You see, it's easy to look successful. But true success, the kind built on integrity, peace, and inner stillness, can't be faked. The person who wronged you might be projecting confidence, but what are they avoiding? What conversations are they running from? What truths are they drowning in noise, distractions, and curated perfection? And more importantly, why do you keep checking in on their illusion? This is where Stoic wisdom becomes a guide. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Just that you do the right thing, the rest doesn't matter." In other words, virtue over vanity, substance over show, character over clout. Justice, in the Stoic view, is not some dramatic punishment. It's the quiet alignment of cause and effect. It's living in harmony with your principles, while life deals out consequences in its own time, without your interference. So no, you don't need to worry about how things appear on the surface. Because while they're trying to look happy, you're actually becoming it. You're rebuilding yourself in silence. You're aligning your life with values that last. You're creating peace from the inside out, not through followers, filters, or flashy updates, but through real growth. Let this be a wake-up call. Stop measuring your healing by their highlight reel. Stop comparing your quiet progress to their loud performance. They may sparkle in public, but you're glowing in private. And that glow, that quiet, steady light within you, is something no one can fake, no one can take, and no betrayal can dim. Because at the end of the day, your worth is not determined by who noticed your pain or who pretended to win. Your worth is in how you rise, how you stay true to yourself, and how you find joy that doesn't need to be posted to be real. So remember, not everything that shines is gold, and not every smiling face is sleeping well at night. Keep walking in truth. Keep walking in peace. Because justice is already being served, patiently, quietly, and exactly on time. Part 5. Karma. Works in silence and timing. You may be wondering, why hasn't karma shown up yet? Why do the people who hurt others seem to get away with it, living their lives like nothing ever happened? But here's what most people miss. Karma doesn't rush. It waits until it strikes when it matters most. It doesn't always deliver consequences the way we expect or when we want. But that doesn't mean it's absent. It means it's precise. You see, karma doesn't operate on your timeline. It operates on truth's timeline. And the deeper the wound someone causes, the deeper the lesson the universe reserves for them. Think about this. Those who betray others often appear carefree. But underneath, they're not free. They're spinning in emotional circles, haunted by the weight of their own choices. They may distract themselves with new relationships, constant motion, achievements that scream, "I'm fine." But guilt doesn't disappear just because it's quiet. It whispers at night. It shows up in broken trust, in failed connections, in the fear of being exposed. And no matter how far they run, they're still dragging the chains of their own actions behind them. The Stoics didn't believe in vengeance. They believed in alignment. They taught that life, in its own time, rebalances itself. That those who live without virtue eventually collapse under the weight of their own deceit. And that's the thing about karma. It doesn't chase, it circles back. Like a delayed echo in a canyon, it returns when the noise has faded. And when it lands exactly where it needs to, at the exact moment they think they've escaped it. So if you're waiting to see someone get what they deserve, don't wait in bitterness, wait in peace. Because the most powerful part of karma is that it needs nothing from you. No interference, no revenge, no retaliation. Your job is not to watch for their fall. Your job is to rise. Let them carry the weight of their decisions. Let them sit in the silence they created. Let the universe handle the balance, because it never forgets. Justice doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it looks like losing the very things they used to hurt you. Sometimes it looks like them finally facing a mirror they've avoided for years, and when that moment comes, it won't be a performance. It'll be real. And it'll be quiet. And it'll be theirs alone. So breathe, live, let go. Because karma doesn't miss. It moves in silence. And it hits with timing. Part 6. True power is in self-control, not revenge. Let me ask you something. What takes more strength? Striking back when you're hurt, or walking away with your head held high? We live in a world that often confuses revenge with power. Someone betrays you, and the first thing people say is, "Get even." But here's what the ancient Stoics knew, and what so many forget today. Real power has nothing to do with retaliation. Real power is self-control. When someone hurts you, disrespects you, or walks away like your worth was disposable. It's easy to let anger take the wheel, to think, they don't deserve peace, so I won't rest until they feel my pain. But in trying to become their karma, you become their mirror. And that's the very thing the Stoics warned us about. Epictetus once said, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." And many people believe they know what strength looks like. Revenge, dominance, the final word. But that's not strength. That's ego. Strength is restraint. Strength is walking away not because you're weak, but because you refuse to become like the very thing that broke you. Because karma, true karma, isn't your weapon to wield. It's life's way of restoring balance. It works without your interference, without your plotting. It moves in ways you can't see, and at a depth that doesn't need an audience. So let them think they got away with it. While they're fixated on winning the argument, you're winning your peace. While they're keeping score, you're building legacy. Think about it. Do you want to prove them wrong? Or do you want to live so right they become irrelevant? That's the choice. And that's where true transformation happens. Not when you get revenge, but when you outgrow the entire situation. When their name no longer triggers your pain. When their actions no longer have the power to pull you off your path. Marcus Aurelius said it best. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. Let that sink in. Not to react. Not to stoop, but to rise so high that they can't even breathe the air you walk in now. True power isn't loud. It's calm. It's knowing you could destroy, but choosing to build. It's having every reason to go low and still choosing to go higher. So if you're still holding on to the idea that revenge will fix what's broken, I want to remind you of this. You don't need revenge. You need restoration. You need purpose. You need peace. And all of that starts when you let go of who hurt you and step fully into who you're becoming. Because the strongest person in the room is the one who refuses to fight battles that no longer deserve their energy. Part 7. Their guilt grows in the quiet. You may never hear them say it. They'll never send that text. They'll never admit they were wrong. They might never tell anyone what they lost when they lost you. But make no mistake, their guilt grows in the quiet. Regret doesn't always come with fireworks or confessionals. It shows up slowly, in those unspoken moments they can't escape. When the noise fades, when the crowd leaves, when they're finally alone with themselves, that's when the memory of you creeps back in. Not the version of you they ignored, not the one they misunderstood, but the real you, the one who listened when no one else did. The one who loved without conditions, the one who showed up with depth, truth, and soul in a world addicted to surface. And when the excitement wears off, when the new distractions feel hollow, when the party ends and the silence hits, that's when your absence starts to echo. Because here's what you must remember, you were not forgettable, you were a presence. You were the calm in their chaos. You were the one they thought would always be there until you weren't. And the Stoics would say, this is justice. Not in a dramatic downfall, not in loud remorse, but in the quiet lesson that nothing real is ever replaceable. Guilt isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just the ache they feel when they realize they let go of someone rare for something easy. Sometimes it's the way they scroll through their phone at night, searching for a connection that doesn't exist anymore. Sometimes it's the way they smile in public and collapse inside when no one's watching. You don't need to make them feel it. You don't need to send a message or prove a point. Because you already did, by leaving. You became the lesson not through rage, but through absence. You became unforgettable not by forcing them to see your value, but by removing it. And here's the deeper truth. People don't remember what was convenient. They remember what was real. They remember the depth, the consistency, the energy you brought into the room. And when superficial pleasures start to fail, when the thrill fades and the emptiness sets in, you're the one they'll think about. Not because you're still holding on, but because they finally realize you let go. So if you're wondering whether they ever felt bad, if they ever regretted what they did, if they ever sit in silence and remember what they walked away from, the answer is yes. But it's not for you to witness. It's for them to carry. And they will. In silence, in stillness, in every quiet moment where your absence speaks louder than their excuses ever could. Part 8. Stay focused on your growth. If you've made it this far, through betrayal, through silence, through the pain of letting go, I want you to remember one final truth. Stay focused on your growth. Because in a world where people are addicted to performance, real growth is the quiet revolution. While they're out there putting on a show, curating a life to impress, chasing attention, chasing applause, you're doing something much harder, much braver. You're building substance. You're developing emotional discipline. You're showing up for yourself when no one's clapping. And that is what real strength looks like. Growth doesn't need an audience. Peace doesn't need to be posted. Healing doesn't need permission. The Stoics lived by this. They didn't chase approval. They chased virtue. They didn't react. They refined. They knew that the loudest path isn't always the highest one. Marcus Aurelius didn't post about his progress. He became it. He once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." So while they perform, you build. While they chase aesthetics, you build character. And while they try to convince the world they're happy, you learn how to truly be. Here's the truth. The people who wronged you may never understand what they lost. But one day, when the lights go down and their distractions run dry, they'll notice something. You didn't just survive. You rose. You turned pain into power. You turned silence into stability. And while they stayed stuck in cycles, you became someone they no longer recognize and can never reach. But here's the thing. You didn't rise to prove anything to them. You rose because you finally chose you. In Stoic terms, this is your ultimate justice. Not revenge, not applause, but a life so aligned, so peaceful, so intentional, that no one's betrayal can touch it anymore. So stay focused. Stay grounded. Don't get pulled into their noise, their distractions, or their illusion of success. Because real success, it's quiet, it's consistent, it's earned in the dark and revealed in time. And when it does show, you won't need to say a word. They'll see it. They'll feel it. And they'll know. You were the one who got away, not because you ran, but because you rose. Part 9. Karma is precision, not punishment. Let's clear something up right now. Karma isn't punishment. It's precision. It's not a thunderbolt from the sky, and it's not emotional revenge. Karma doesn't act out of anger. It acts out of alignment. It's not personal, it's principled, and that's what makes it so powerful. You see, karma is not interested in theatrics. It doesn't need to get back at anyone. It simply delivers what's earned. What you plant in the ground is what grows. If you sow peace, integrity, and honesty, you harvest trust, stability, and strength. But if you plant manipulation, betrayal, and emotional harm, don't expect to grow a garden of peace. Karma is spiritual law, cause and effect, energy, and return. Not because the universe is vengeful, but because it's just. It's like gravity. You don't have to believe in it for it to be working. You can deny it, ignore it, pretend it isn't real. But sooner or later, what goes up comes down. And betrayal. Emotional betrayal. That's not just about what someone did, it's about what they disrupted. When someone lies, deceives, or hurts others from a place of ego or entitlement, they don't just harm another person, they break their own alignment with truth. And here's the part most people miss. You can't hide from the laws of integrity. Not behind smiles, not behind success, not even behind public approval. Because deep down, beneath the performance, beneath the distractions, there's a quiet echo always playing. What you did is coming back to you, and it always does. The Stoics believed in this natural order. They called it logos, a rational, divine force that governs the universe. And they taught that when you act in harmony with it, you thrive. When you go against it, eventually you suffer the consequences, not out of cruelty, but out of correction. So when you wonder whether someone will ever face what they've done, know this: karma doesn't forget. It doesn't knock loudly. It shows up in timing, in patterns, in repeated mistakes that haunt the person until they confront the truth they tried to outrun. And the beauty of it all? You don't have to do anything. No revenge. No exposure. No need to prove a point. Just live in alignment. Heal in silence and grow in peace. Because karma isn't your sword, it's life's scale. And the only thing you're responsible for is keeping your side light, honest, and clean. That's where your power is. And that's where peace lives. Part 10. Your forgiveness. X. Your liberation. Let's end with one of the most misunderstood truths of all. Forgiveness is not weakness. It's strategy. In fact, it might be the most powerful move you'll ever make. Because forgiveness doesn't mean you're okay with what happened. It doesn't mean you're giving someone a free pass. And it definitely doesn't mean you're forgetting. It means you're choosing your peace over your pain. It means you're taking your power back. When you forgive, not for them but for you reclaim your mental space. You stop letting someone else's betrayal rent space in your mind. That anger, that resentment, that replay of what they did and what you should have said, it drains your energy, it clouds your clarity. It lowers your frequency, and you weren't built for that. You weren't meant to stay stuck in survival mode. You were meant to climb, to rise, to evolve, to grow beyond what they tried to reduce you to. The Stoics taught that we must free ourselves from emotional slavery, anger, bitterness, the desire to punish, because all of it keeps us chained to what we cannot control. Epictetus put it simply: no man is free who is not master of himself. And self-mastery, that starts with forgiveness, not as a soft surrender, but as a sharp act of emotional discipline. When you forgive, you tell the universe, I've learned, I've let go, I'm no longer reacting. I'm rising. You're not here to chase revenge. You're here to create legacy. You're not here to prove them wrong. You're here to prove yourself right. And you can't do that while looking backward. Forgiveness is how you close the door, so you can open the next one with both hands free. Because the truth is, you can't climb while carrying resentment. You can't soar while holding on to anchors, so release them. Not because they deserve it, but because you do. Because peace isn't something you wait for. It's something you choose, and when you choose forgiveness, you choose freedom. When you let go of what tried to break you, you finally rise into what was always meant for you. So let today be the day you say, I forgive, not because I'm weak, but because I'm ready to be free. Part 11. Walk forward without closure. Let me say something that might be hard to hear, but will set you free. You may never get the apology. No explanation, no closure. No final words wrapped in honesty. And that's okay, because you don't need their apology to move forward. You don't need their validation to heal. You don't need someone who couldn't respect you to suddenly recognize your worth. You were never waiting on them. You were waiting on you to decide that you're done carrying dead weight. Let's be real. Sometimes closure doesn't come in words. Sometimes closure is a decision. It's waking up one morning and saying, I don't need them to make it right for me to make it out. Because the truth is, they lost you. And one day, long after the distractions wear off and their ego quiets down, they'll realize what they had. They'll remember the depth, the loyalty, the presence you brought, not because you told them, but because life showed them through every shallow connection that couldn't compare. But by the time they realize, you'll be long gone, not out of spite, but out of peace. Because your comeback doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be posted, announced, or proven. It just has to be real. And real comebacks aren't fueled by revenge. They're rooted in stability, clarity, and transformation. The Stoics taught us, the obstacle is the way. And maybe this was the obstacle you never asked for, but needed, to finally become who you were meant to be. So if you're still waiting for closure, I want you to consider this. What if closure is you? What if closure is the way you've rebuilt yourself quietly, steadily, day by day? What if the greatest response to betrayal is the life you now live, with boundaries, with purpose, and with zero need for their apology? That's your power. That's your healing. That's your ending and your new beginning. You don't need the last word. You just need to walk forward with your head high, your heart open, and your energy no longer tied to what broke you. Because real closure isn't about what they give you. It's about what you no longer need. And once you reach that point, you're already free. So after everything, after the betrayal, the silence, the unanswered questions, what now? What do you do with all the pain you didn't ask for? You rise. Not in rage, not in revenge, but in resonance, with a deeper truth, a higher standard, and a legacy that outlives the people who tried to break you. Because the Stoic way isn't about fighting karma. It's about trusting it. Karma is not punishment. It's not about emotional justice or dramatic payback. It's cosmic alignment, the great recalibration of what was thrown off balance. And you don't have to micromanage that process. You're not here to monitor their silence. You're not here to analyze their regret. And you're certainly not here to wonder whether they're suffering the way you once did. That's not your role anymore. Your role is to stay grounded, to stay disciplined, to keep building forward. Because while they spiral through emotional voids they created, you rise with intention. While they chase validation, you create meaning. While they remain stuck in the past, you lead yourself into the future. This is emotional mastery. And forgiveness, detachment, letting go. Those are not signs of surrender. They are the highest forms of leadership. Marcus Aurelius didn't say, destroy your enemies. He said, be unlike them. The greatest revenge is not in what you do to others. It's in who you refuse to become. You refuse to become bitter. You refuse to let trauma define your choices. You refuse to give the past more power than your present. And that is Stoicism in action. The Stoics weren't emotionless. They were emotionally intelligent. They didn't suppress feelings. They understood them and then used them as fuel for clarity, discipline, and virtue. So if you've been waiting for a sign to release what's behind you and focus on what's within you, this is it. Let their silence echo while your life speaks volumes. Let their absence deepen your purpose, not your pain. Let karma handle its work while you focus on yours. Because karma, it doesn't need your help. But your legacy does. You're here for more than closure. You're here to build something beautiful out of the broken. So forgive, detach, focus. Not for them, for you. Because the path forward isn't paved with vengeance. It's paved with vision. And you, my friend, you're not here to fight the storm. You are the calm after it. Walk forward with clarity, with courage, and with a peace that no one, not even those who hurt you, can take away. This is the Stoic way to rise. And now, it's your turn. If this message spoke to something you've carried quietly, you're not alone, and you don't have to heal in silence. This channel is a space for clarity, courage, and calm, especially when life gets loud. So, if you're ready to rise above noise, not react to it, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and join a community that chooses wisdom over chaos and legacy over ego. Leave a comment and tell me, what part of your story are you finally ready to let go of? And remember, you don't need revenge to win. You just need peace that no one can take from you.